Coming into the EMDT program, it seemed like my head was empty. I was definitely not a digital native. I had lots to learn when it came to the world of technology. Soon enough, the information was flowing in, and my head was being filled with knowledge from each course. Knowledge waiting to be passed on to my students. These 5 students have varying degrees of learning disabilities that affect their academic skills drastically. I needed something new to increase their reading and writing skills so they could be successful throughout their academic careers. Month 1 came with the introduction to the world of research. Little did I know the very first search would result in all of this. My AR project. The problem I was encountering was my students' low reading skills, which were affecting their ability to succeed in other areas of academics. Digital storytelling was one of the choices in month 1 we were asked to research. That first search gave me the idea to incorporate digital storytelling into my reading and writing curriculum in the hope of increasing my students' skills. So I began to research what had been done and where there was a need for more research. I found enough research to support the idea of implementing digital storytelling into the reading curriculum for my students. I found several sources in relation to what I wanted to do and then narrowed it down to reading and writing instruction to students with disabilities, technology usage in the classroom, and digital storytelling in the classroom. Hinchcliffe, 2008, noted special populations benefit from adaptive technology and resulted in positive effects on emergent literacy knowledge and skills. Also, according to Sylvester and Greenidge of 2009, digital technologies can motivate struggling writers and scaffold understanding of traditional literature. As for teaching reading to students with disabilities, it was noted by Martin, and Carvalho, 2008, that an effective reading program for students with learning disabilities must incorporate various strategies on individual needs, while fundamental techniques need to be implemented to guide instruction. After reading these and all the other articles I found for my literature review, it sealed the deal. Incorporating digital storytelling in the special education classroom was my project. I was now ready to move forward in creating my Cycle 1. For the design and development process of Cycle 1, I relied a lot on the MLT, TMD, and EDE courses. I needed to think about the different learning styles of each of my students and make sure I addressed them in the implementation piece of my project. I knew where I was heading with the project, but the ADDIE process made me realize there was so much more I needed to focus on in the project than what I initially had thought. Students would need to take the STAR reading test to see exactly where the reading levels were at before beginning instruction. Next, instruction on writing skills will need to be reviewed. Once these items are taken care of, students can begin brainstorming ideas for their stories before the writing process can begin. Once editing and rewriting was finished, they needed to illustrate their stories. But what program to use for this? During these courses, we were introduced to Web 2.0 tools, and I was amazed at just how many tools were available right at my fingertips. So many that it took a lot of time to find the perfect one. After checking out several of the tools, I decided to go with StoryJumper as a way for my students to produce their digital stories. I made a tutorial of the site using ScreenFlow so my students would be able to visually learn how to use the site. The tool has many features that are easy to use, and my students would be able to illustrate their stories. I was ready to begin. But then everything came to a stop because of summer break. I was in a panic. How exactly would I be able to make this work? Finally, we returned to school, only to have to start over with a new set of students, as the others had moved on to high school. Now what? The only thing to do was to proceed forward. Turns out, this bump in the road was a good thing. With new students and the beginning of a new year, there was more willingness to learn, and I was refreshed and ready to teach. Cycle 1 was great. The data from Cycle 1 was exciting. 3 out of the 5 students' reading levels had increased. They ranged from a gain of a 0.2 to a whopping 1.2 gain overall. I was very pleased, but I felt I needed to reach the other 2 students and continue to try and help all of them improve their skills. I also discovered that my students have a very difficult time writing fictional stories. I need to change up my plans just a bit for Cycle 2. My idea for Cycle 2 came after a lot of thought and by pure accident. I received a message on my email that a fellow student had posted more pictures on Flickr. I knew from past experience that Flickr could not be accessed because of our school filters, so I had to think of ways to make it work while still using the pictures. So for Cycle 2, I gave my students turns taking my camera home with the instructions to take pictures of things that meant something to them that they would like to write about. They loved it. There was so much planning put into their photos that alone they told the story. They were excited, engaged, and even better, they were learning. They used their pictures to write the stories. Because of the planning, editing, and rewriting, they read the stories several times. Because the stories held meaning, they enjoyed reading them. The practice and exposure proved successful. The data from Cycle 2 was even better. 4 of the 5 students' reading levels improved, while 1 stayed at the same level. Gains of 0.1 to 0.8 were recorded, and 4 of them had met my goal of a 0.5 or better gain in their skills. I would have liked to see all 5 students make gains, but I will continue to work on that goal. I will definitely continue using technology to enhance my curriculum. Overall, this experience was great. I felt my students were successful, and so did they. I'm still continuing to see improvement in their reading. We have a 30-minute block, 4 days a week at the end of the day, when the whole school does nothing but read. My students dreaded this time at first, but are now enjoying this time. They race to see who can grab a teacher in the room first to read to. This is the biggest success ever, as it shows they are starting to enjoy what used to be a chore, reading. So where do I go from here? Forward, forward, forward. I will continue to incorporate digital storytelling into my curriculum and continue to improve the quality of my teaching and reading. I plan to make more tutorials using ScreenFlow and am in the process of implementing an LMS for all of my students, not just my reading students. I believe this is a great way to start up a new community of students, teachers, and parents. Music and movement is a daily experience in my classroom that my students with severe disabilities really enjoy. I also become even more familiar with Adobe Flash, so I can create lessons utilizing it. I have a colleague who also graduated from this program I will be approaching, since I'll have so much time on my hands now to see about presenting the things we have learned to the faculty. I don't want to waste all of this knowledge. Thanks for the knowledge and enjoyable adventure, Full Sail. You rock.